All right. Welcome to Litscapes, everyone. Here I am once again trying to carry out this podcast, and it's tough. It has been tough. Um, I've tried doing this for a while now. It's been 3 months, exactly 3 months ago today, that we aired the first episode on Ex-Wife. You may remember that was 3 months ago. And since then, we've had a couple of episodes, we've had a couple of attempts at some short episodes, and nothing's come out yet. And it's tough, honestly. It's been a bit daunting, but also scary and disappointing. Just how tough it can be sometimes to set everything up. Get people collaborating, because it's not just me. It's just me right now, actually. I'm here by myself, all alone, with just you guys. And whereas, in earlier episodes, I've had someone actually behind the cameras and helping out with the setup. This time around, though, it's just going to be me. It's going to be me probably going forward for a bit, but I do have some people helping me out with the editing and all the production that goes into something like this. It's not easy, but here I am and I'm trying. I do hope that with a little bit more independence, being just me, it might be easier to get this going with a little bit more frequency. And I know I've said that a bunch of times before already, right? We're going to have more episodes and we're going to be shooting more often and, bringing more exciting material to you weekly. But it's been tough. But I do hope that this time around we can actually, get something done. So I've changed the setup a bit. You may notice I have this new background. And today we're doing a mini episode, right? We're calling these In Parenthesis. I'm not going to be reading a novel today, right? We are not finishing any novel today. I just want to share a poem with you. Something short, something light. And I've been wanting to do this for a while, actually, because this poem that I want to read for you guys today, it comes from the novel Ex-Wife. Those of you who watched the first episode, right? We did this show on a novel by Ursula Parrott called Ex-Wife from 1929, and that's actually how we started the podcast. It was a book that just really moved me, and I absolutely loved reading that. I read it a couple of times, back to back, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a great book, and I still recommend it. And I recommend so much, and that's actually what brings me here today, right? So I've been thinking about doing this poem as a complement to the first episode on Ex-Wife, and just haven't had a chance to get around to it. But a few days ago, I ran into a former student from a few years ago, from I think two years ago, yeah. And she was telling me that she watched the episode. She really liked it, and was so interested in the book that she actually went out and got a couple of copies for herself, for her mom, and also I think her sister is reading it. But she got her whole family to read Ex-Wife, and that just made me so happy. Just thinking that my show actually had this impact on someone, to the point where they even went out and recommended the book to someone else. They bought the copy, and it was very satisfying, and I have to admit it I was proud of myself, kind of, for that first episode, and so very happy that someone out there is taking an interest. Like you guys, I know you're there watching and you're all interested, right? Yeah, but I was very happy to hear that. Just very glad. And so here's a shout out to you, Alessandra Minuti, and your mom. Thank you so much. And so I'm doing this poem now, finally, right, to get you ladies even more interested in the book and have deeper insights into it. Okay, so the poem that I'm going to be discussing today and sharing with you comes from chapter 12 in the novel. I mean, come on, let's be honest. Have any of you read the book? Right? I know these girls are reading it. Okay, that's probably 3 out of all of you. But I do hope the rest of you, you, my fellow readers, you get some interest, some actual sincere interest in going out and getting yourselves a copy and reading it, because it's totally worth it. So as always, spoiler alert, right? Yeah, I mean, already in that first episode, I read the last chapter, so it's all pretty much spoiled for you. But if you did not finish that first episode, because I know some of you didn't, I know some of you did not finish the first episode on purpose because you want to read the book, and I won't get to it. But this poem then comes from chapter 12, and the best chapter, like in the whole book. It's the one where we have these insets of musical notes. Right at the very beginning of the chapter, our protagonist Patricia and her best friend Lucia, they're listening to a record of Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. Now back then, this is the 1920s, right? And back then, of course, they had no Spotify, no record players as we know them today, right? You couldn't just hit repeat over and over, or have your endless playlist, right? So they would listen to this same record, vinyl, over and over, right? That's actually where we get our term, the needle drop, right? Lifting the needle and dropping it over and over, and so the chapter has these insets of the bars, the musical bars, dividing the sections in the chapter, and it's very original. It's actually a very original chapter. It's Patricia tells us like her whole day throughout the chapter, at different times, different things that she's doing, and it's all sort of synchronized to this music. It's almost like an embedded soundtrack in a book on the page. Again, it's fun reading it. It's very original, very creative. And at the end of the chapter, there's this really funny encounter. She's on a date with a painter who, this famous portrait artist, and he's getting kind of aggressive, right? They are both at her place, and he's getting kind of aggressive and very imposing. And it's a very awkward moment. And spoiler alert, right? Yeah, but he's giving her like an ultimatum, or he's giving her like 2 minutes to decide on what to do with him. And suddenly there's a crash in her bathroom, and some other guy walks out. One of her best friends, Kenneth. And well, he saves her. He basically saves her, and they go out that same night. They go out, and he says, let's go for a ride. We just drive around and bring a copy of Swinburne and I'll have you read some of his poems to me if, over breakfast if we're out that late. Right? That's where the chapter ends. And well, actually, the chapter ends with a few lines from the poem. And I remember when I read those lines, the poem just stuck with me. It really, not only did I find it most fitting with the themes of the novel, but the poem is also very beautiful, and it really stuck with me. And just like these girls with their record of Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, I went back immediately. As soon as I finished the chapter, I went back immediately to the beginning of the chapter and reread the whole thing. And the poem is really good, and it's what I want to read for you guys right now. Okay, so this poem is by Algernon Charles Swinburne. He is a Victorian era poet, mid-late 19th century, and he's part of the decadent school. The decadent school were these poets who were sort of interested and enthralled by the Victorian crisis of faith, right? You may remember that during the 19th century there were all these scientific discoveries in various fields, in biology, in physics, in psychology, in chemistry, in medicine, right? And so the church, both the Anglican and the Catholic, right? They were having to deal with these questions of the nature of humanity and evolution, the workings of the body and whatever, right? So there was this crisis of faith, and our poet here, Swinburne, he really gets into it. One of his main themes is going to be precisely anti-theism. He was an atheist, right? Very anti-religious, huge masochist, and this poem talks a little bit about this idea of the afterlife, but it's an afterlife not the way that it's painted in Christianity, right? It's not the purpose of this life, getting to that afterlife, right? But rather it's this. Well, there's nothing. There's pretty much nothing there. There's nothing but this rest at last from this hard, long life of suffering. That actually sounds pretty Christian, but no, there is nothing to look forward to. That's kind of what this guy is saying. The poem is called "In the Garden of Proserpine." Proserpine, or Proserpina, is the ancient Roman goddess of fertility and agriculture, spring, blooming flowers. She in Greek mythology she's known as Persephone, and she was the one that gets abducted by Hades, Pluto in Roman myth. He takes her down to the underworld, and she gets a chance to come out right every 6 months for the spring. And she goes back to the underworld, and it's when we get winter, right? And that's the cycle of the seasons. So it's the Garden of Proserpine, and it's also known for precisely, people who get lost there. There are these beautiful flowers, and there are these poppies, and they eventually lose their purpose in life, right? And they're stuck in the underworld until they get away from these flowers and find their way back to reality. And that's the poem, right? That's the poem. And so let me just read through it once, and we'll come back to the actual stanza that appears in the book and why it's so fitting, or why I think it ties in so well to the themes of the novel. So here we go. This is again by Algernon Charles Swinburne, and the poem is "The Garden of Proserpine." And it says, wait, because there's an airplane just flying by. I don't know if you can hear it, but yeah, that's it's got to be flying pretty low because that was kind of loud. All right, so here we go. Time to get lit with Proserpine and Swinburne and Patricia from ex-wife, good old Pat. What a great narrator, what a great protagonist. Honestly, I really miss her, and I have to go back and read that book sometime this year because it was just one of the best works of literature I've read recently. Here we go, finally. Here where the world is quiet, here where all trouble seems dead winds and spent waves riot in doubtful dreams of dreams. I watch the green field growing for reaping folk and sowing, for harvest time and mowing a sleepy world of streams. I am tired of tears and laughter, and men that laugh and weep, of what may come hereafter for men that sow to reap. I am weary of days and hours, lone buds of barren flowers, desires and dreams and powers and everything but sleep. Here life has death for neighbor, and far from eye or ear one waves and wet winds labor, weak ships and spirits steer. They drive adrift, and whither they wot not who make thither, but no such winds blow hither, and no such things grow here. No growth of moor or coppice, no heather flower or vine, but bloomless buds of poppies, green grapes of Proserpine, pale beds of blowing rushes, where no leaf blooms or blushes, save this whereout she crushes, for dead men deadly wine. Pale, without name or number, in fruitless fields of corn, they bow themselves and slumber all night till light is born. And like a soul belated, in hell and heaven unmated, by cloud and mist abated, comes out of darkness morn. The one were strong as seven, he too with death shall dwell, nor wake with wings in heaven, nor weep for pains in hell. The one were fair as roses, his beauty clouds encloses, and well though love reposes, in the end it is not well. Pale, beyond porch and portal, crowned with calm leaves, she stands, who gathers all things mortal with cold immortal hands. Her languid lips are sweeter than love's who fears to greet her, to men that mix and meet her from many times and lands. She waits for each and other, she waits for all men born, forgets the earth her mother, the life of fruits and corn. And spring and seed and swallow take wing for her and follow, where summer song rings hollow and flowers are put to scorn. There go the loves that wither, the old loves with wearier wings, and all dead years draw thither, and all disastrous things. Dead dreams of days forsaken, blind buds that snows have shaken, wild leaves that winds have taken, red strays of ruined springs. We are not sure of sorrow, and joy was never sure. Today will die tomorrow, time stoops to no man's lure. And love, grown faint and fretful, with lips but half regretful sighs, and with eyes forgetful, weeps that no loves endure. From too much love of living, from hope and fear set free, we thank, with brief thanksgiving, whatever gods may be, that no life lives forever, that dead men rise up never, that even the weariest river winds somewhere safe to sea. Then star nor sun shall waken, nor any change of light, nor sound of water shaken, nor any sound or sight, nor wintry leaves nor vernal, nor days nor things diurnal, only the sleep eternal in an eternal night. In an eternal night. There it is, right? So that's the Garden of Proserpine. It's a very hopeless poem. Right? It has this very dark and pessimistic view of life and death. There's nothing for us there, right? It's just this eternal sleep, eternal night. There's a lot of images here about hollowness, emptiness, things forsaken and withering, weary. It's sad. It's honestly very sad. And you know, the lines from the book are from too much love of living, from hope and fear set free. We thank with brief thanksgiving whatever gods may be, that no lives live forever. Right? You know, whether there is a God or any gods, we must be thankful that, you know, this life is not going to be forever, that we must not endure this pain and suffering forever, and once it's done for good. And you know, it goes, it really ties into Pat's narration and experience after getting divorced, right? After the breakup from, what was the name of the husband? Peter. Peter was the husband, real asshole. And you know, she's going through a tough time, but she develops this very pessimistic and scornful even view of life. And yeah, you know, the chapter 12 again from the book, it could have ended with any other poem. I imagine that Kenneth could have been into any other poet and asked Pat to bring a book, you know, on anything else, any other collection of poems. But no, our author, remember, Ursula Parrott, she chooses Swinburne, and she chooses this poem in particular because it reflects the themes and this motif of hopelessness and depression and just plain sadness. There is ultimately, you know, by the end of the book, I'm not going to discuss the ending of the book again, but by the end of the book there is this feeling of this sort of contradictory happy sadness, a glad sadness, if you will. And I think the poem really catches it. You know, it kind of makes you want to enjoy life a little bit more, but at the same time, it makes you question, what for? You know, what's the point? There was a line here that really got to me. No love's endured. With lips but half regretful sighs, and with eyes forgetful weeps that no love's endured. Yeah, so again, remember Proserpine, Persephone, she was the goddess responsible for that renewal of life, right? Life dies, and then, you know, after a year, it comes back to life in the spring. Well, no such luck for those who get lost in her garden amongst those poppies, drinking her deadly wine, right? She says at one point, the green grapes of Proserpine, pale beds of blowing rushes, where no leaf blooms or blushes, save this whereout she crushes, for dead men, deadly wine. Yeah, you're not coming back from this. Right? There's not going to be any renewal. There is no light at the end of the tunnel. When it's over, it's over. And for Pat, the ex-wife, well, I'm not going to say whether it was over or not, but she definitely feels that way, right? After that breakup, after the divorce from Peter, she feels like, you know, just everything is meaningless. insignificant, and we end up feeling for her. Anyhow, look, the point of these mini episodes, again, we're calling them in parentheses. Take note, right? Is that to have these short conversations. Right now, I've just gone. Man, is it already 25 minutes? 25? And I wanted to do 15. Oh well, let's leave it there, right? I have some more poetry that I want to share with you. We'll do that next time. Another poem that I think you guys are going to appreciate because it comes from a very famous and renowned and beloved modern poet. We'll get to that next time. But for now, thank you all once more. Again, this has been Litscapes in parentheses. And I mustn't forget, if you've liked the show, remember to hit that like button, share it with everyone, subscribe to the podcast, all that stuff that you guys, I'm sure, already know how to do. Well, just do it again if you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be seeing you pretty soon, hopefully.